side of the stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio this week. Episode 249, Dark Side of the Stream, was my pick. It's called Mafia Most Wanted. Now,
another Mafia documentary.
We have done a lot of Mafia documentaries, I would say. A lot. Had some really good, interesting ones. But this one was really about a syndicated crime family that was out of Canada.
Yeah.
Out of the Toronto area. And to me, that was really interesting because when you think about, Mafia, you always think about Italy and Sicily, and then, of course, like into New York, Chicago,
yeah.
et cetera,
Vegas.
You don't really think about, Cuba, Havana. You don't, and that's all based off The Godfather, and I'll get into that in a second.
Northside, Springfield.
You never really think about the Mafia being an international thing, or more specifically in this case, how much influence it has in Canada. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because we're just focused on the American side of things, but the Canadian Mafia, or in this case, the Ingrandetta, is how they said, Ingrandetta, they are just as much relevant, and if not more successful and or dangerous as the ones that were created in America. And part of that is because of the Prohibition era, because Canada never went dry and supplied whiskey to the United States. But there has to be some sort of organized thing with that, right?
Yeah.
So...
And feuding families and
all that, yeah. But I thought it was, in that sense, there was the reason, just so that you know, that was the main reason I wanted to pick this, because I wanted to hear about like a different country's mafia and how it was, and it wasn't so sophisticated, it was the same thing. But the first thing that I got out of this was that there's really not a whole lot of difference between the mafia and corporations, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah. Government, yeah. Same thing, yeah.
Did you ever watch The Godfather?
Yeah, long ago, though.
But you're not the type of guy that's like me. It's if The Godfather's on, you watch The Godfather.
No.
Whenever Michael takes over the family, I mean, his dad was trying to do this, but couldn't. Ran out of time. And inevitably, Michael, the same thing happens to him. But he desperately is trying to legitimize the business.
Yeah.
Because if the goal is...
He could see the writing on the wall.
That eventually you can't continue to do this forever.
No.
And if you can legitimize it...
It ends two ways. Grave or jail.
Or jail.
Yeah.
Or you retire and then someone else is going to
Very lucky if you get out in retirement, yeah.
But what I think this documentary shows is that a lot of them didn't really have to go legitimate. They just ingrained themselves in what exists now and do the things on the side in corporations, just like corporations
are doing now. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Healthcare and
politics,
weed industry, all that
local
stuff.
Government, everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy because it's so similar to how corporations are run, but obviously you don't get a 2-week severance pay in the Mafia. So there are slight differences.
And some of the bill collecting tactics are probably a little different.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 249, Mafia Most Wanted. I'm 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 249. We're discussing Mafia Most Wanted, which tells the story of Ndrangheta, I'll get it right one time, a mafia really centralized out of Toronto and outside of Italy that's pretty much made the case in the documentary that that's where their center is, out of Toronto. You'd think that,
you
Toronto,
never really thought about it being anywhere besides here,
But for the most part, what I got out of this is they're big time cocaine hustlers, money laundering hustlers. Yeah. I mean, with billions and billions in revenue every single year. So I guarantee you, even though they're in Toronto, they're felt in the United States,
for sure.
in Europe, South America. They definitely got ties. This specific mafia, Intern, was actually from. I thought this was interesting because I didn't know they called it this, but it's called Calabria, which is the toe of Italy, the little tiny, the little part of the southern,
the boot,
the toe. You always hear about, blood in, blood out, right? But in a lot of the families, crime families, especially in the United States, it didn't necessarily mean that you had to be related to get in. You had to be of Italian descent for the most part. That's definitely true.
To be a true made man.
But you had to become a made man didn't necessarily mean you had to be like my brother or my cousin or whatever. A lot of times that was the case, but did not. The biggest one was, are you Italian?
Yeah.
That's like the biggest part of it.
And then somebody would almost be a sponsor, kind of like.
Yeah. But in this one specifically, it's family. It is blood, and they make the cases. That is probably why they are so tight and so hard to infiltrate, because it is a family business.
Tighter unit.
They make the claim in this that they're more secretive than the Cosa Nostra, which is arguably one of the toughest.
Probably why we didn't hear as much about this before. Bing,
bing, bing, bing, bing, bing, bing. Which to me is pretty
you go
crazy.
under the radar is the smart thing to do if you're doing shady stuff.
Know.
Yeah.
How many times in the past have guys been taken out because they were too
flashy?
Too flashy. Mm-hmm. There have been plenty. But I thought that was interesting for them to make the claim that this organization was more secretive than Cosa Nostra, and as close as, like, I think they said it was 2014, they think they made more money as an organization in the drug trade and money laundering trade and extortion and all that stuff than corporations like McDonald's.
Wow.
Like, made more money doing this than McDonald's. But also, again, there's no way to, how do you...
Yeah.
And then at that point, like I said in the beginning, what's the difference between them and just regular old corporations?
Same thing. These guys probably could have excelled in the corporate world as well, but they chose this path.
Also, I thought it was pretty interesting because we've definitely talked about
a lot of documentaries.
The money laundering scene, and how sometimes we go play shows and we're like, how is...
Yeah.
It was interesting because they kind of played it out through restaurants, construction companies. It's so
concert
easy
promoters
to say,
is a great way to launder money.
That chair is $10,000, right? And then all of a sudden it's washed and then you move on. So it's such a crazy thing to think that even now, all these years later, there is an organization that is active, and they're probably just as involved in laundromats and corporations and banks.
Money needs to get laundered.
Banks, and that's a big part. I think really, and it'll never happen, but if they really wanted to go after a lot of these crime families, you just follow the money.
Yeah.
And where's the money go? Banks. And they're just as culpable as I think as.
Oh yeah, there's some of those Euro banks. Yeah.
Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about some of the specific guys they talked to in this documentary series, Mafia Most Wanted, next on Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens. Watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 249, Mafia Most Wanted. They did a pretty good job pulling out two guys that had been turned informant, which is interesting to see. Joe Ferraro and what was his name? Cecil Kirby.
Yeah.
I think I spent a little bit too much with the Kirby guy.
It was an odd character, that's why,
The biker dude. Yeah, he was definitely interesting. But he, again, I think proves what I was trying to say earlier, is that these families that stay in blood stay successful.
Smarter
because
move.
These two dudes were, but at a certain point, at a certain level of the organization, you can't just rely on your family anymore.
You've got to bring in some outsiders sometimes.
But I thought that was pretty interesting. It cracks me up when you have these guys that, kidnapped people, killed people, shot people, put guns in faces for, through the 70s and 80s, got popped, turned informant, did 10, 15, got out, and now they're like podcast dudes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sammy the Bull. Oh.
Why wouldn't you do that, though?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but still, you're supposed to lay low. But I guess they think the heat's off at this point.
See, that's the other thing is, at what point does the family say, Jay, what he did, he bit us in the hand? Did they ever? I mean, you would think like some of these guys would never forget that.
Yeah, you would think if you put away somebody for a life sentence or something like that, that there would be some revenge. But a lot of these guys don't seem too worried about that.
But again, to think about. I mean, it's no different. It's such because we did like the food documentary, like when we did the corporations that changed America, right? And we were talking about like how McDonald's started,
battling two
just
different
a tiny little
people.
burger shop in California, right? Just a little,
which is usually how it starts. You start selling weed out your house,
just like this, a tiny little village in Italy. It starts with a couple guys that are strong arming a couple guys, and then it builds, and then it builds, and then it builds,
no
and then
different.
It builds, and then it builds. It's so crazy that those things mirror each other.
Yeah, it's very similar.
You know what I mean? But when you watch this and you see where they went and where they are now, it's no different than a guy flipping burgers in California or trying to get some dude that's running a bar in Italy to pay you so you got protection. It's crazy. We come back with our review of this next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens. Watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio one more time. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 249 this week was my pick. It's called Mafia Most Wanted. Probably 3.5.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, I didn't know.
Like watching
I didn't know about the story, but it's all kind of the same thing.
I think it's I feel like it's a little depressing because
it's all right though, because
you see this in the scope of this, and then you're like, well, how do they? There's no way they're going to stop this. They can't stop this.
No, you can't stop it.
So what do we do?
Just life goes on.
Some people, it's rules for me, but not for thee, or whatever.
Some people can skirt the rules, and you also take a risk skirting the rules, so it's a risk reward.
At this point, it doesn't seem like they're taking a risk at all.
Yeah.
If they're making more money 10 years ago, more than McDonald's, and it doesn't seem like the heat's on them. I don't see anyone in Toronto going after them.
Now you're selling a life of crime.
You know what I mean? Well, I mean, I'm not saying do it, but at the same time, I'm like,
you can see why people do it.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for us, this next month coming up has just bangers upon bangers of documentaries coming out. So we're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about. I found a great one just came out on Amazon Prime. It is Cocaine Quarterback.
Sounds great.
It's a beautiful story. Yeah, amazing tale.
Just like Jay Stevens' life.
Yeah, right up my alley. USC in the heyday.
Yeah,
2005, right that era.
That wasn't that long ago.
Nope.
All right, well, we'll talk about it. As always, you can watch us do this live on Facebook every Thursday at 9. Also on YouTube, same time. That's when I play it during my show. Jay does it at 6, and you can always download it as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app. I'm Mike the Intern.
I'm
That's
Jay
Stevens reminding you
we watch
movies, so you
documentaries.
don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.